Okay, so you can see my screen now, correct?
Yes, doctor.
Now, last time I think I started with this part 2, chapter 1, correct? Huh?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. So as I said, really the details I want to focus here more is to see the effects of the crime, what happened to Raskolnikov, and I'll try to show you as many highlights that I have really done and shown you here is really striking. As I told you, the whole novel is full of really details and examples of what we were talking about, the effects of the delirium, the pain and the agony and the punishment and so on and so forth of the crime. Now, in this chapter, as I said, he went to the police station, and of course, for a reason which he was surprised to discover, that his landlady really presented something against him, and he was really surprised. But he went there, and the most important thing is that he fainted there, and he collapsed in the middle of the hall or the room where everybody was there. And you know, he said to some extent that he felt giddy or he felt dizzy. And of course, the reason we know, you know, his mentality and the attitude. I think you can see all this in this chapter, as I told you last time. And the thing is, you can see that everybody really suspected him. He said, you know, they suspected everything. And in the next chapter, chapter 2, you know, he went back again, and you know, he wanted to sort of sort things out and to fix his situation. Notice in chapter 2, he went back to his room, and he was devastated to know that maybe you know, they will find him out or something. And really, he said, notice at the beginning of that chapter. But as I said, the idea about the terror and the fear and the agony and the pain and all this, you know, as you can see here, mastered him completely. You know, because you know, he could never believe that this thing could really affect him in such a way. Again, I must, yeah, I must use my camera. Okay. Yeah, so the idea here, you can see when he went on about this. Here was his room, nothing and no one in it. No one had opened in. Even Nastasia had not touched it. But heavens, how could he have left all these things in the hall? He rushed to the corner, slipped his hand under the paper, you know, because he wanted to hide. Remember, he got some stuff from there, which is really nothing, of course. He said there were 8 articles in all, 2 little boxes with earrings or something of the sort. He hardly looked to see. Then 4 small leather cases. There was a chain, too, merely wrapped in, you know, newspaper and so on. So as if to say to us, really, he didn't care what the things that he brought with him. And remember, here again, we think about the whole idea of, you know, the crime. Why did he kill her when he really didn't want to, or even didn't care about what he took from there. Notice, he put them all in the different pockets of his overcoat and the remaining pocket of his trousers, trying to conceal them as much as possible. He took the purse too, and he went out of his room, leaving the door open. He walked quickly and resolutely, and though he felt shattered, he had his senses about him. Again, look what, again, I think one of the mistakes, of course, one of the terrible mistakes, you know, later on he would think about it, that he left his room open. He went out and he didn't lock the door, leaving the door open. Again, you may say later on, of course, you may say, you know, when somebody, feeling absolutely, agitated, and of course he's going to lose his mind and to lose his senses in a way. So he took all the stuff to hide it because he thinks he should not leave anything in his room. He walked quickly and resolutely, and though he felt shattered, he had his senses about him. He was afraid of pursuit. He was afraid that in another half hour, another quarter of an hour perhaps, instructions would be issued for his pursuit. And so at all costs, he must hide all traces before then. He must clear everything up while he still had some strength, some reasoning power left him. Where was he to go? Now, of course, not here, the narrator really is judging him, as if to say he was in absolute agony. He wanted to hide all the things, and he was worried that maybe he will lose his power of thinking and so on. So that's why he must do it in a hurry. And that's what he did. He went out, of course, and he looked for a place to find a place to hide it. So he went and he thought to throw everything in the canal there, and he wondered really. He thought that could he or should he, or, is it possible that he could throw everything? And, he was worried about that people would suspect him and so on. So he said that here in this paragraph, notice. And what if the boxes were to float instead of sinking? And of course they would. Even as it was, everyone he met seemed to stare and look round, as if they had something to say or had nothing to do but to watch him. Why is it? Why is it, or can it be my fancy? He thought. You see here again, of course, because he thinks that everybody is watching him. Yeah, when we know, nobody's watching. Actually, nobody's watching him. But that's in his mind, you see, this is the idea. He said, yeah, of course it's his fancy. And, he went on, and you can see here again, he went there to other places, and he went to, notice here, he went to an area, it's called to the Neva. There was not many people there, of course, and he wanted to go to, to the area where he could hide. Notice, and half an hour he had lost over an irrational plan simply because he hadn't thought of it in delirium. Again, the question of always he was in delirium, always is extremely agitated and extremely, confused. He had become extremely absent and forgetful, and he was aware of it. He certainly must make haste, to go to find a place to cover his stuff. He walked towards the Neva along the Prospect. And, I'm not going, I don't know if I should read all this to you, but he went to a place and he dig deep. I don't know if you can hear, notice, he bent down over the stone. He found a big garden, and he said maybe he will hide this in the ground, and he thought he could do this. Nobody would ever notice that there is something underneath this rock. That's what he did. Notice, I think he said that here. Notice, he bent down over the stone, seized the top of it firmly in both hands, and using all his strength, turned it over. Under the stone was a small hollow in the ground, and he immediately emptied his pocket into it. The purse lay at the top, and yet the hollow was not filled up. Then he seized the stone again, and with one twist turned it back, so that it was in the same position again, though it stood a very little higher. But he scrubbed the earth about it and presented it at edges with his foot. Nothing could be noticed. Yeah. So this is how he, hid everything. He put everything under this stone, this big stone, in the middle of a field or a garden, right? Which is in a hollow ground, which is like an empty area. And the funny thing is, he never came back to it. What a shame. What a shame. I'm not sure if he did, but later on, of course, he said, and no one could find it. And, the idea is, we say, what a terrible thing, what a terrible coincidence that he took all this stuff, he killed the old lady and her sister, and he thought he will be rich by taking her money and will give it to the poor people, to poor families and so on. So all his idea about being a Superman and being a great help to society went absolutely for nothing. Absolutely for nothing. Did nothing of the sort. So why then, Notice, then he went out and turned into the square. Again, an intense, almost unbearable joy overwhelmed him for an instant, as it had in the police office. I have buried my tracks, as if to say here in his mind, he say, yeah, nobody can see. I have buried my tracks. And who can think of looking under that stone? It has been lying there most likely ever since the house was built, and will lie as many years more. And if it were found, who would think of me? It's all over, no clue. And he laughed. Ha! Ha! No clue. Yeah. Yes, he remembered that he began laughing, a thin, nervous, noiseless laugh, and went on laughing all the time he was crossing the square. Yeah. He went crazy. Now he said, come on. Now there's no clue. Well, he thinks there's no clue. I told you, and I think this is the story again, and the novel really again, is there is no perfect crime. No perfect crime. There is a clue. In fact, there are many clues. There are many clues. He said, no clue. All over. Ha, 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 ha. Done. Well, no. Later on, of course, we know he will be, of course, I'm saying later on, of course, the police, yeah, they had not, they not really had no clue or not enough clues except him, because all his behavior, all his action, really, these are the clues, if you like. Later on, we shall see. His own crazy psyche, is full of clues, really. And when he reached the K Boulevard, where 2 days before he had come upon the girl, his laughter suddenly ceased. Other ideas crept into his mind. He felt all at once that it would be loathsome to pass that seat on which, after the girl was gone, he had sat and pondered, and that it would be hateful too to meet that whiskered policeman to whom he had given the 20 kopecks. Damn him. He walked, looking about him angrily and distractedly. All ideas now seemed to be circling round some single point, and he felt that there was really such a point, and now he said, now he was left facing that point. And for that, the first time indeed, during the last 2 months. And of course, he went on, damn it all, he thought suddenly. In a fit of ungovernable fury, fury was absolutely, agitated, as I said, always in real agony and confusion and fear and deliria, and if it has begun, then it has begun. Hang the new life. Good Lord, how stupid it is. And what lies I told today. How despicably I fawned upon that wretched Ilya Petrovich. But that is all folly. What do I care for them all and my fawning upon them? It is not that at all. It is not that at all. Yeah, here, as I said, actually, when you go on and on and on, really, this is the psychological punishment going on every time. He said, I lied to these people. I lied to Ilya Petrovich, the man in the court, in the police station, where they went to sign the paper for the IOU for the landlady. And he said, I phoned, I pretended, I acted. And it was a terrible thing. And he thought, maybe could I have a new life, a better life? What kind of life am I having? Again, when you say, I don't care, again, we don't believe him, because he is in a real pain, absolute agony and pain. And, when he said, it is not that at all. It's not that at all. Yeah, it's his own really terrible mental, absolutely mental agony. Suddenly he dropped a new, utterly unexpected and exceedingly simple question perplexed and bitterly confounded him. And this is it. If it all has already been done deliberately and not idiotically, notice, if it all has really been done deliberately and not idiotically, and if I really had a certain and definite object, how is it I did not even glance into the purse and don't know what I had there? You see, this is it. He said, I even didn't look at the purse, what's inside it. So he said, I did everything like an idiot. What kind of new life? I took nothing. I took nothing. I did not even glance into the purse and don't know what I had there, for which I have undergone these agonies and have deliberately undertaken this base, filthy, degrading business. What he did is a filthy, why? And here I wanted at once to throw into the water the purse, together with all things which I had not seen either? How is that? Yes, that was so. Yes, that was all so. Yet he had known it all before. And really here, as I said, please, I want you to think carefully about the pain, the absolute psychological pain that went throughout his life for so many hours and days and weeks and months and years, because thinking what he did is not worth it. Really, it's not really worth it. And he went, of course, up to Razumichen, notice here, to see his friend there, notice. He went up to Razumichen's room on the 5th floor. The latter was at home in his garret, busily writing at the moment, and he opened the door himself. It was 4 months since they had seen each other. Razumichen was sitting in a ragged dressing gown with slippers on his bare feet, unkempt, unshaven, and unwashed. His face showed surprise. "Is it you?" he cried. He looked his comrade up and down. Look at the word here used, comrade, as if, they use the word in the socialist sense. The socialist, the idea of being, like both of them similar or having the same problem of, being poor and things like that. As hard up as all that. Why, brother, you cut me out, he added, looking at Raskolnikov's rags. Come, sit down. You are tired. I will be bound. And of course, Razumichen, remember, he's his very good friend, very close friend. Later on, we shall see. Razumichen really is a nice man, absolutely gentleman. And later on, he married his sister, Dunya, after, of course, leaving or not marrying this ugly man, Luzhin, later on, as we know. So here, Razumichen started to look at him and he's saying, what's wrong with you? As if there's something funny looking around or at him. Why you are seriously ill? Do you know that? He began feeling his pulse. Raskolnikov pulled away his hand. His friend looked at him. He seemed to be ill or something, or there's something wrong with him. So Razumichen immediately said, what's wrong with you? You look funny. You look strange. Never mind, he said. I've come for this. I have no lessons. I wanted, but I don't really want lessons. Here, Raskolnikov said, I came to find a little job because I want to do something to get money. And now we think of the thing that he had stolen or robbed or taken from the old lady's house, and he never used it. And now he came to Razumichen to find him a little job to do something to earn some money. And Razumichen was really, of course, he's his friend. But I say you are delirious, Razumichen observed, watching him carefully. Here again, he told him, you look delirious. You are so shaking and you look so really maybe ill. What's wrong with you? No, I'm not. Raskolnikov got up from the sofa and he had mounted the stairs to Razumichen's. He had not realized that he would be meeting his friend face to face. Now, in a flash, he knew that what he was least of all disposed for at that moment was to be face to face with anyone in the wide world. His spleen rose within him. He almost choked with rage at himself as soon as he crossed Razumichen's threshold. Goodbye, he said abruptly and walked to the door. So immediately, because remember, Raskolnikov is, as I said, he's absolutely in agony and in pain psychologically. So he said, why did I come here to Razumikhin? He will know that there's something wrong with me. So he said, okay, I'm going, goodbye. And of course, Razumikhin was shocked. Stop, you queer fish. You know, calling him queer fish. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't want to, said the other, again pulling away his hand. Then why the devil have you come? Why did you come then here to me? Are you mad or what? Why, this is almost insulting. I won't let you go like that. Well then, I came to you because I know no one but you who could help. To begin, because you are kinder than anyone, cleverer, I mean, can judge. And now I see that I want nothing. Do you hear? Nothing at all. No one's services, no one's sympathy. I am by myself, alone. Come. That's enough. Leave me alone. Yeah. Well, yeah, he was alone. Absolutely. Alone. Yes. All the time he was, and he still is at this moment. And later on, he will go on to be, you know, alone and lonely and miserable and isolated and alienated from society because he couldn't tell people what he did. He couldn't tell. And of course, Razumikhin was really, you know, he's his friend. Come on, he said, come on, man, stay. Stay a minute, you sweep. You are a perfect madman. You know, he was trying to tell him and to stop him, but of course, he could not. So he went away. He went away, and really, his friend, of course, as you know here in this section, we know that he was, you know, if you like, shocked to know what's wrong with him. Okay? So Raskolnikov went away, and if you like, he was trying to find something that maybe to write something or to translate something or to do something to earn some money, because really he needs that, because he has no money, and now, you know, all the things that he got from this terrible crime is nothing. So he needs that, and still he's thinking of his mother and sister. Raskolnikov took the German sheets in silence, took the 3 rubles, and without a word went out. Razumikhin gazed after him in astonishment. So he gave him something to do. He gave him some pages to translate, and he gave him some money, 3 rubles, as you know, like a down payment, which is really funny. Razumikhin still, as I said, still not sure or really shocked or surprised, very surprised to see him behaving in this bad way. Are you raving or what? Razumikhin shouted, roused to fury at last. What farce is this? You will drive me crazy too. What did you come to see me for, damn you? I don't want translation, muttered Raskolnikov from the stairs. Then what the devil do you want? Shouted Razumikhin again. As I said, really, he told him, I don't want anything. You know, we thought at the beginning that he wanted to do something, and as we know, he was in a terrible pain. So he gave him, as I say, tried to give him the paper and the money, and notice he took it and they passed on. He told him that at the end, of course, and they passed on. It was a piece of 20 kopecks. From his dress and appearances, they might well have taken him from a beggar asking alms in the streets, and so on. So, if you like, he took the money and he went out. I think there are a lot of details. I don't know. Maybe I should move on to give you more important passages to see how much he thinks of what happened to his crime. Now, again, here in the next section, to do the idea, the brutality and the crazy, and you can see here the frenzy, the pain that he had, the terror, as you can see, notice. He, if you like, was really in a bad situation altogether. When he, as if to say, he had some kind of dream, really, and he remember he had dreams before. Remember, we said that he had so many times of dreams, but I think this dream here he had as if there was something really going on, screaming, or being somebody beating his landlady. Notice here, it was dusk when he was walked, when he was waked up by a fearful scream. Good God, what a scream! Such unnatural sounds, such howling, wailing, tears, blows, curses, and so on. The whole thing was like really in a dream. He had a dream that his landlady was beaten by somebody, but again, it was his fancy. It was in his mind, really. He could never have imagined such brutality. As you can see here, I've read this before. The wailing and the cursing grew louder and louder, and he caught the voice of his landlady. This is the idea of the dream. Again, this is important because it's to do with his terrible crime. All at once, Raskolnikov trembled. He recognized the voice. It was the voice of Ilya Petrovich. Ilya Petrovich here and beating the landlady. Again, the whole thing is a dream. He is kicking her, banging her head against the steps. That's clear. That can be told from the sounds, from the cries and the thuds. How is it? How is it? Is the world topsy-turvy? Well, yeah. Yeah? Something? Yeah? Okay. So really, the whole dream here is quite interesting to see the effect again of, he thought, he had this terrible dream, of course, because of what had, of course, happened to him and what he did. At the end, you can see this, notice, terror gripped his heart like ice, tortured him and numbed him. But at last, all his uproar, after continuing about 10 minutes, began gradually to subside. The landlady was moaning and groaning. Ilya Petrovich was still uttering threats and curses, and so on. Raskolnikov sank worn out on the sofa, but could not close his eyes. Again, as I said, the whole thing was a dream, but he thought that it was real. Nastasia came in with a candle and a plate of soup, looking at him carefully and ascertaining that he was not asleep. She set the candle on the table and began to lay out what she had brought: bread, salt, a plate, and the spoon. You have eaten nothing since yesterday, I warn. You have been judging about all day, and you are shaking with fever. Nastasia, what were you beating? What were they beating the landlady for? She looked intently at him. Who beat the landlady? Just now, half an hour ago, Ilya Petrovich, the assistant superintendent on the stairs. Why was he ill-treating her like that? And why was he here? Nastasia scrutinized him, silent and frowning, and her scrutiny lasted a long time. Felt uneasy, even frightened at her searching eyes. Nastasia, why don't you speak? He said timidly, at last, in a weak voice. It is the blood, she answered, at last softly. It is the blood, as though speaking to himself. Blood? What blood? He muttered, growing white and turning towards the wall. Nastasia still looked at him without speaking. Nobody had been beating the landlady, she declared at last in a firm, resolute voice. He gazed at her, hardly able to breathe. I heard it myself. I was not asleep. I was sitting up, he said still more timidly. I listened a long while. The assistant superintendent came. Everyone ran out on the stairs from all the flats. No one, she said, no one has been here. That's the blood crying in your ears. When there is no outlet for it and it gets clotted, you begin fancying things. Will you eat something? He made no answer. Nastasia still stood over him, watching him. Give me something to drink, Nastasia. She went downstairs and returned with a white earthenware jug of water. He remembered only swallowing one sip of the cold water and spilling some on his neck, then followed forgetfulness. You can see, of course, this is, of course, many examples of really, this is one of the big dreams that he had, which is amazing. Of course, it's to do with his own, as I said, fever or feverish, or as I said, confusion. And she said to him, your blood. And he thought, really, when she said blood, this is ironical. And really, this is, pun here, a pun, because he felt, she means that there's blood somewhere in the room, meaning the blood from the old lady he killed from what's her name? The pawnbroker, Alyona Ivanovna, from the killing of the crime. And he said, what blood, what blood, what blood, And of course, she meant the blood in him, meaning he's not really, himself. And in chapter 3, again, you can see, I highlighted all these words and phrases about deliria and delirious and fever and feverish and being ill and being, half conscious and being crazy all the time. I don't know. Here, of course, the landlady here he had some visitors to his place, And we shall see later, of course, we know the details that his mother and sister really came to him. And let's see if here we can see, notice, it happened at 10 o'clock in the morning. On fine days, the sun shone into the room at that hour, throwing a streak light on the right wall and the corner near the door. You can see here something like, romanticism and the description of a lovely day, sunshine to his room, which is dark and ugly. Now there's a little bit of change. And really here the sunshine is symbolic of his sister and mother coming to visit him. Nastasia was standing beside him with another person, a complete stranger, who was looking at him very inquisitively. He was a young man with a beard, wearing a full, short-waisted coat, and looked like a messenger. The landlady was peeping in at the half-open door. Raskolnikov sat up. "Who's this Nastasia?" he asked, pointing to the young man. "I say he is himself again," she said. "He is himself," echoed the man. Concluding that he had returned to his senses, the landlady closed the door and disappeared. She was always shy and dreared conversation or discussions. She was a woman of 40, not at all bad looking, fat and buxom. Anyway, it was, later we shall see that, as I said, really, it was his friend, Razumikhin, and, his doctor again. Notice his friend, they came to check on him because Razumikhin thought he was ill or something. "Who are you?" he went on, addressing the man. But at that moment, the door was flung open, and stooping a little as he was so tall, Razumikhin came in. What a cabin is this?" he cried. I'm always knocking my head. "You call this a lodging? So you are conscious, brother? I've just heard the news from Pashnika." "He just come to," said Nastasia. "Just come to," echoed the man again with a smile. "Who are you?" Razumikhin asked, suddenly addressing him. "My name is," again here, we have, as you can see here, that, as I said, he's a friend to Razumikhin there, and you can call him like, I think later on we shall see more. We shall see many other, of course, other characters who are secondary to some extent, characters, but just to say that he's, another character to give more light about Raskolnikov himself. "My name is Verasumikhin, at your service, not Razumikhin, as I am always called, but Verasumikhin." He was laughing at him, and to say that I'm your friend, just to mock him, really. "I am the messenger from your office, from our office, from the merchant, and I've come on business. Please sit down." Razumikhin seated himself on the other side of the table. And later on, we shall see, as I said, he is Razumikhin's friend, Zosimov. And as I said, Zosimov is his friend and a doctor who really takes care of. He's Razumikhin's friend, as I said, he wants to check on him and to see whether he's okay or not. So Zosimov is a nice man, if you like. Later on, we shall meet him more about with Razumikhin. And here he said that to him. It's a good thing you have come to, brother, he went on to Raskolnikov. For the last 4 hours, you have scarcely eaten or drunk anything. We had to give you tea in spoonfuls. I brought Zosimov to see you twice. You know, here he's telling him, Zosimov is my friend and doctor. You know, I brought him to check on you to see whether you're okay, you know, because he thought that he was ill. You remember Zosimov? He examined you carefully and said at once it was nothing serious. Something seemed to have gone to your head. Some nervous nonsense, the result of bad feeling, bad feeding. Again, here there are, as we shall see, there are ironical stuff, or, you know, the irony of situation. When we know what was going on in his mind, you know, everything he thought that they discovered that he was talking about the crime or something. Notice here the ideas, and I think the details, I don't know. Question, you can see this very interesting to see here. Notice, Zosimov is a first-rate fellow. He's making quite a name. Come, I won't keep you, he said, addressing the man again. Will you explain what you want? You must know, Rodya, this is the second time they have sent him from the office. But it was another man that, you know, last time, and I talked to him. Who was it came before? That was the day before yesterday. I ventured to say you, if you please, sir. And, you know, again, he told about him. That was Alexei Semyonovich. You know, there are many names. I think, as I said, I don't want you to worry about these funny names because, you know, could be not really important to us as very secondary names. But later we shall see, you know, the idea about remember the mother, as I said, and his sister coming to the town, and they wanted to see him. And this is, of course, the introduction about, you know, as he was the man to, if you like, to be, or to check on him and to give him something about, remember, because Login later, as if acting as his brother-in-law and all this carry on. But of course, you know, the whole thing, you have to be really, when you read this carefully, you know the connection and these funny things everywhere. And especially here when he told him, we came here at your mama's request. You know, at your mama's request, you know. And here really Raskolnikov would be shocked. Mama? What do you mean by mama? You know? At your mama's request, through Afanasy Ivanovich Varuzhin, of whom I presume you have heard more than once, a remittance is sent to you from our office, the man began, addressing Raskolnikov. If you are in an intelligible condition, I have 35 rubles to remit to you, as Semyon Semyovich has received from Afanasy Ivanovich at your mama's request instructions, so that to that effect. Do you know him, sir? Yes, I remember. Varushin, Raskolnikov said dreamily. You hear, he knows Varushin, cried Razumikhin. Of course, Raskolnikov really, as you know, always was absent-minded, and he has no idea what they're talking about. But he said, yeah, because he wants them to shut up, and he will never take the money because they're sending him, as if to say that his mother is sending him money. You know, he said, at your request, your mama sent you some money, you know? And he felt really terrible about it. And at the end of the day, of course, we know here we have more and more notice here. I don't want it, said Raskolnikov, pushing away the pen. Not want it? I won't sign it. How devil can you do without signing it? I don't want the money. Don't want the money? Come, brother, that's nonsense. I bear witness. Don't trouble, please. It's the only that is just, you know, the idea really is more and more details. I think you should, I don't want to read all that, but at the end of the day, he felt angry that his mother is sending him money. He felt absolutely angry about it. And of course, later on, his mother, later on, I don't know, we'll see her later on, of course, in the same place. And he felt really, really very bad about it. Yeah, I think you can see more and more details of that. And he was worried about everybody around him, and he sort of nearly you know, wanted them to leave, because he felt really uneasy about their presence. Again, if you like, he started suspecting that maybe they know something about him. And you can see here, as I said, there are a lot of other names and other characters, but as I said, really, some of those are not important for us to remember. And here they told him about the question about, you know, the paper that he signed for his landlady, the IOU question here, and you know, how he felt that he felt bad that he was going to marry her daughter, and you know, all these details he said about this. You know, the way he did it in a very really bad way. But as I said, the whole thing was the effect of what happened to him. If you like, here in a way, at some places, the way he was talking and the way he was discussing and saying things, details about here and there, they started really always to suspect that there's something funny about him. There's something really he's saying all the time, which is, as I said, part of his character, part of his mental situation, that he was step by step being known there. Here they were telling him that the way you are behaving, the way you are saying, you seem to be strange. And he said, what are you talking about? You know, and he, if you like, you know, the idea that maybe he was mentioning something about the crime. And notice he was really very surprised and very shocked and very upset to know maybe that they have heard something. Notice, how did I rave about? How he keeps on. Are you afraid of having let out some secret? You know, here they are telling him, what's wrong with you? Why are you worried? Are you worried maybe that there's some secret coming out of you? Meaning, when you were raving, when you were angry, when you were dreaming, do you think that you have said something about the crime? Don't worry yourself. You said nothing about a countess, but you said a lot about a bulldog, and about earrings and chains, and about, again here, Krasnoyarsk's island, and some porter, and Nikodem Fomich, and Ilya Petrovich, the assistant superintendent. So he's mentioning all these names really in association with his crazy attitude about the crime. And another thing that was so special interest to you was your own sock. He said, you were worried about your sock. Yeah, you whined, give me my sock. Zamitov hunted all about your room for your socks. And with his own scented ring bed, bed check fingers, he gave you the rag. And only when you were comforted, and for the next 24 hours, you held the watched thing. You held the wretched thing in your hand. We could not get it from you. It's most likely somewhere under your quilt at this moment. And then you asked so piteously for fringe of your trousers. We tried to find what sort of fringe, but we could not make it out, and so on. Really, the idea here, all this, that Raskolnikov was getting really mad, his mind, and he's saying the way you were behaving and the way you were shouting, and we were shocked about you, the whole thing to him was terrible. And he thought maybe they knew that there's something he did. And they were in his room, and everything about his socks and his trousers and the fringes of his trousers. And the way he's mentioning things about, as if to say maybe he was found out. And really he was absolutely upset about it. And the whole thing, he was mad, and then he kicked them away, really. Notice here. No sooner had she left the room, and the sick man flung on the bedclothes and leapt out of bed like a madman. So, good God, only tell me one thing. Do you know, do they know of it yet or not? What if they know it and are only pretending, mocking me while I'm laid up? And then they will come in and tell me that it's been discovered long ago, and that they have only, what am I to do now? That's what I have forgotten, as though on purpose, forgotten it all at once. I remembered a minute ago. Well, yeah. This is the mental, the psychological punishment. As I told you, many, many, many examples. All the narrative we have after killing Alyona Ivanovna and her sister, every single narrative that he said, to him it was a mental punishment, psychological punishment. And he is saying, they know that I have done it. And they laugh at me. He said, yeah, I must be stupid, that they know me, So that's what he said. They mock me. They pretend that they don't know. Really, it's again like the story I told you, which is like by Edgar Allan Poe, the Telltale Heart, when the man went crazy and he thought that they were laughing at him, but they were not laughing. It was him inside his head. And really here, this is the idea, absolute idea. This is the effect, the mental, psychological, the strong mental, psychological punishment, which will never die away till he admits clean to Sonia and to other people. And really here he said this, there are many passages which are really amazing to support what I'm saying here about the miserable, notice, bewilderment. He walked to the door, opened it, listened, but that was not what he wanted. Suddenly, as though recalling something, he rushed to the corner where there was a hole under the paper, began examining it, put his hand into the hole, fumbled, but that was not it. He went to the stove, opened it, and began rummaging. And he looks crazy. Pa, Zamyatov, the police office. And why am I sent for to the police office. Where is the notice? Bah, as if to say he's, absolutely, angry against everybody. I'm mixing it up. That was then. I looked at my sock then too, but now I have been ill. But what did Zamyatov came for? Why did he, why did Razumikhin bring him? We called him Zamyatov and Zosimov, and, he muttered helplessly, sitting on the sofa again. What does it mean? Am I still in delirium, or is it real? Look at these questions. He's asking himself, by the way. He's not asking anybody. He's asking himself. Am I still in delirium? I believe it's real. I remember. I must escape. What haste to escape? Yeah, I must escape. Yeah, but where? Where are my clothes? I have no boots. They have taken my boots, or they have taken them away. They have eaten them. I understand. Here is my coat. They passed that over. And here is money on the table. Thank God. And here is the IOU. I'll take the money and go and take another lodging. They won't find me. Yeah. But the address bureau, they will find me. Zosimov will find me. Better escape altogether, far away to America, and let them do their worst and take the IOU and be of use there. What else have I take? What else shall I take? They think I am ill. They don't know that I can walk. I could see by their eyes that they know all about it. If only I could get downstairs. And what if they have set a watch there? Policemen, a watch there, policemen. What is the idea? What is this idea? And here is beer left. That's a bottle cold. Yeah. Here we have crazy Raskolnikov. All these questions, all this, carry on, planning. He's absolutely out of his mind because of the effect, as I said, the absolute, confusion, deliria, psychological punishment. Again, you can see the word here, incoherent thoughts gave more and more disconnected, yeah, there was absolutely, the sense of complete loss about what he, happened. And again, I think you can see more and more and more of this, yeah. Again and again, you can see Razumikhin is, sitting and, thinking and saying, what is this man? Maybe there's something wrong with him, and at the end of the day, really, it was, of course, as we say, it was the whole thing was the effect of what happened and what he did. And in chapter 4, we have the same, going on and on and on about that. And then later on, Zosimov, the doctor, and Razumichen, really, they started to suspect that there's something wrong with this man. And in this chapter, the chapter 4, we see more and more details, you know, about the judgment, that how they judge him. They look like being maybe he's ill, or maybe he's depressed, and so on. And as I said, when you know, I want you to pay attention to the time when his sister and mother came to him. And we have more characters, especially here, Porfiry Petrovich, the man who had the investigation. And I think this is, he's one also of Zosimov's friends or relatives, actually. Porfiry Petrovich, the head of the investigation department, and you know, he said to him, he's my relation. You know, he said, he's my relation, and maybe we can meet him and talk to him and show him, you know, in a way, of course, the whole idea really is again to lead more and more to clues that they will know him as the real, if you like, criminal at the end of the day, of course, we know. Yeah, I think I will stop here. And that's it for today. I think I've said enough, and I will stop recording. Please read